Set in Games Workshop's Warhammer 40,000 sci-fi universe, Darktide is a hacky, bashy, shooty, horde-killing grindfest. In case the background footage hasn't given it away already, it's also a splattery mess of flying limbs and exploding heads, so if you're averse to gore in games, or you were looking to play this with a young child, I guess you already have your review. But the rest of you...
Darktide is about a guy, or a bigger guy, or girl...
A woman? Good God.
...who finds themselves a convict of the Imperium, charged with a crime that would be best described as slightly annoying somebody.
Sedition? Didn't some of us get in trouble for that?
No.
You are given the chance to avoid your probable execution.
I was invited to join by a magistrate.
By fighting the Emperor's enemies for him.
Bloody rebels making mischief.
As he's too busy chilling in his gold-plated chair to do it himself.
With a little help from some fellow victims of Imperial society,
King George commands and we obey.
A huge arsenal of over-the-top firepower,
7 barrels.
And the gratitude of a senior officer for saving their life,
You did me a damn good turn.
you'll make your way through France. Tertium, violently punishing those who hold contrary religious views.
In doing so, you'll earn the two things you need to stay alive a little bit longer. Cash
Loot recovered, sir.
and trust. Cash buys you beefier tools of destruction, while trust, really, XP, gets you access to perks and plot-wise is the reason your character is not currently floating in space without a suit.
Darktide supports 4-player co-op and now thankfully 2 to 4-player private matches for any antisocial couples and those who don't play well with others.
So what other than Sean Bean not dying in it makes it stand out?
Starting with the obvious, the combat is awesome, which is fortunate because in the 41st millennium,
There's a bloody war on.
it's fast, precise and visceral with tight mechanics and a lot of impact.
No.
Those who have at least looked at a Vermintide game before, you'll likely recognise the melee as being basically identical.
If you've never played Vermintide, the melee combat in it is really good, equally paced, reactive, and somewhat tactical. But then it had to be, because it was basically the entire game. Darktide has a much greater emphasis on range combat due to its sci-fi setting, and the gunplay has been amalgamated into the model incredibly well.
To fight, you'll need weapons. Warhammer is well known as quite an exaggerated setting, thus the weapons available are fittingly over the top and meaty. At least once you get past the starting gear. The poo shovel's actually not that bad.
I know, that's the problem. I can't even afford it.
There is a decent variety available, depending on your class and level, though we're a little baffled as to why we have 9 different variants of autogun and only 1 model of bolter or auto pistol.
You will earn him your precious rifle guns.
The selection will hopefully expand further in the future, as Fatshark have already added a couple and promised more.
Enemy selection is about what you would expect in any horde game. Vast swathes of fodder filled out with elites and some dangerous specials, of which nearly all have some kind of ability to disrupt or immobilize team members. On top of this, you have the consideration of armor types. The combination of factors here actually lends some well-needed depth to build, team composition, and roles, as most classes can be equally good against everything at the same time.
Is there anything you can do? I can read, sir.
The music score that accompanies this OTT slaughter is catchy and entrancing.
Play me a tune.
Right from the loading screen, it fits the setting, the tone of the game, and pace of the action. A mixture of gritty violence and hymn, somewhat akin to soldiers busting into a church during choir. But in a good way. To hear it outside of the game, watch nearly any Darktide partners' content on YouTube, but we didn't apply.
The levels you'll be bashing and blasting your way through are magnificent in their design. The incredibly vast and vertical layout of the hive really comes across, despite your mission being a basically linear path through it, and Warhammer fans will recognize set pieces.
Hey, do you want attention to detail? This is a piece of tabletop terrain.
Not that the game allows you to take in the view for very long. The color palette may be mostly grubby shades of misery as befits the universe, but there is definition to each map and few simple modifiers to mix things up a bit.
Fantastically,
I say yay.
from our perspective, and hopefully yours if you watch this channel, the co-op mechanics in Darktide are very well thought out and encourage players to work as a team. Overwhelming odds usually help to promote mutual reliance,
Oh my God, so there's its fallback.
though it's no guarantee, and as we alluded to earlier, no class or weapon is godlike against everything, almost.
Tell them to form squad.
Players can mark enemies and supplies for each other, and characters will shout them out to add attention-grabbing sound cues. Sticking close together also confers all sorts of benefits depending on the classes present in your team.
Short version, if you're a pair that like fighting desperate last stands back to back, supporting each other to the end, this could well be a good fit for you. Just don't expect every rando you meet in pugs to share your beautiful dedication.
In Russia, I ate my own corporal.
Or even sense. The game wants you to fight like that, but there will always be players who would rather treat it as a solo glory hunt.
Stop! What a day it'll be!
Daring to diverge from its predecessor, Darktide features character customization which thankfully avoids the arguments about who is going to play which class. Your personal reject can be given a full backstory.
My mother was a whore. I was born in a brothel.
Which doesn't really matter at all, but the personalities and the voice acting really shine.
Appearance-wise, the options aren't amazing, thus 95% of female characters you'll see all have the same hairstyle, and your average player looks about as attractive as you would expect in a world of deprivation and war.
Much like Vermintide, the Darktide player characters are a rather chatty bunch.
He knows how to talk.
Making constant conversation and call-outs depending on their situation or just to fill the quiet moments. In-law biases are represented.
You know what the trouble with
Psychers
is, Sharpe?
Without feeling too weighted or forced, and the conversion from set characters to completely player-based ones, though moving a little uniqueness from dialogue was actually done surprisingly well.
Having said that, the conversations themselves are a bit of a mixed bag.
Bet you can't make that shot again.
Bet you can.
You're talking to a bot. Nate, you're going insane.
Some are brief and pointless, but some are...
No claim, if I understandeth not, the form of Gothic speech. Really?
I can teach you my secret language if you like. It has 15 vowels.
actually kind of fun. Whatever you can understand of it, anyway. With the range just broad enough to catch you off guard a week after you thought you'd heard it all. It may be my imagination, but they tend to be better with a wider selection of classes to avoid quite so much of, I think this, answered with,
Yay.
Speaking of the classes, they are well defined.
I am a soldier, not an assassin.
Lore-friendly and interestingly different in the way they each play. However, they are only 4 and no subclasses. Though you do get to pick your perks, there isn't a great selection of some being obviously superior, sometimes leaving you with the basic choice of playing the class meta or deliberately gimping yourself for flavor.
Hurrah! My boys! Hurrah!
It's likely more will be added in the future, though we have no idea whether this will be free or paid like in Vermintide.
Darktide has a decent range of difficulties that should fit just about anyone, making it pretty accessible. However, you'll get far better rewards for playing on the higher difficulties, and certain upgrade materials do not drop at all on the lowest.
Before we get to our customary tonal shift, we actually have some semi-nice things to say about the community for once. Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, we're going to be good. Darktide has open voice chat in game, and much as this means that you might have to mix with people and hear things you'd rather not in public games,
You, sir, are a silk stocking full of shit!
until you can wrestle your way to the mute option, on the whole our experience was pretty positive.
You beautiful Ogren.
Thank you!
This even extends to some of its content creators who have gone to surprising lengths
His ass, unyielding.
to inform and entertain.
With Scab Gunner, ass, flak armored, ass unarmored. Okay, he's got unyielding ass.
Right, that's plenty positive enough, and the fragrance this game gives off is far from rosy. Time to vent.
Let the effusions out, Sharpe. That's what my doctor says.
Darktide is a horde-shooter through and through. The entire gameplay loop consists of killing things while attempting to move between objectives, obtain the reward for doing so, and then go spend it, rinse it, repeat.
There isn't much depth to the game beyond just making yourself better at the killing part, so you'd better have a serious hard-on for hacking things to pieces,
When Obadiah's up, he's up like an animal.
because it's what you'll be doing the entire time.
If that level of repetition wasn't enough, those glorious maps are the same each time. There's apparently 14 of them now, but it really doesn't feel like it because only a random selection is available to play at any one time and nothing prevents the same maps from coming up repeatedly.
On top of this, poor matchmaking and dropping player numbers will often push you to the quick play button if you want to play with other people rather than have your team filled out with brain-dead bots.
Don't know, sir.
Fortunately, the maps are at least capable of hosting different objectives occasionally, but they are only 7 mission types and they almost entirely boil down to fight to this place, do a thing while fighting, leave, hopefully, while fighting.
Kind of feel like whenever you're extracting there should always be a horde. Like, it's always more exciting when you're being chased. It's not the deepest or most interactive experience.
On which argument, he lost.
Mostly you'll be interacting with the enemy's faces.
On account of me blowing his head off his neck.
but we can at least say that some of the objectives are a bit more interesting than guarding unreliable drills in bank heists a la Payday.
Again, Fatshark have said that they'll be adding more selection in this regard, likely for free, which can only be a good thing, but notice how many of these promises are stacking up and how long Vermintide 2 took to get new content. They might find expectations quite hard to live up to at this rate.
You broke your promise.
So this game does have a story, which is a shock in a Horde game. It's fully voiced with cutscenes and...
I had an uncle once who thought the fairies were after him.
it's utterly riveting.
What happened to him?
I got him.
Incidentally, this is what sarcasm looks like when it drips.
The entire plot is basically just a short lore justification of your continued existence, and even that makes it sound more impressive than it is. Fatshark made a big deal about getting Dan Abnett, author of the Gaunt's Ghosts 40k novels, among other things, to work on the game, but you wouldn't know it if they hadn't said anything, which seems like a serious waste of talent.
You waste, man.
Wait though, there's a twist. A traitor that must be sought out, and spoiler, it's not you. Who is it then, I hear you ask, this mysterious agent of chaos in our midst? Well, we put them in the background footage just to f with you, but you're unlikely to work out who it is because they, like the plot, are completely inconsequential.
We stopped eating French drummer boys, for they smell.
Honestly, the atmosphere and the lore are far better presented by every other element in the game. The characters' level and enemy design, dialogue writing, voicing, and sound effects. All of it has a greater effect on how you will perceive the game world than the story does.
Certain achievements in the game, some of which you'll want to unlock decent clothing,
Where did you get the uniform, Sharpe?
require an understanding team of 4, because the bots don't understand shit.
Get her away from me, she's looking at me!
The same can be said for the higher difficulties, and for the same reason.
Just to be clear, we're not saying it is bad that the game is challenging enough to encourage a team of 4 players to coordinate well at the upper end of its difficulty. Just that this could become a detriment if you want to play the game exclusively as a pair.
What is bad is the method by which you acquire better gear. Generally speaking, you do not get loot drops per se, though occasionally the Emperor will send you a present upon mission completion.
Take it! It's yours!
Completely at random and often useless. Primarily you'll be checking in at the shop every hour when it refreshes its limited stocks in the hope that they might have something better this time. Cash and what we'll call milk money are easily acquired rapidly, so the best way to get what currently alleges to be endgame equipment is to sit at the hub checking the shops. It'd be nice if there was a system that rewarded you more for playing well instead of store camping.
How shall I divide the cheese? By merit or by rank?
Right from the beta, Darktide has run pretty smoothly in mission, but has had problems with disconnects, crashes, and matchmaking. Most of these have been addressed since launch, but remnants still crop up here and there. Some of the character feats don't work properly, and certain game features are yet to be fully implemented.
Overall, the game feels a bit bare in terms of content to keep you going. The player base has shrunk quickly, though not fatally, which isn't a big surprise as this is what happens when you release an already simple game with bits missing, a low level cap and limited gear pool.
May we have your attention?
Many players are already maxed out and waiting for the other half of the game they were sold.
A customary warning for the motion sick too, Darktide involves a lot of frantic running, spinning, and thrashing around in first person only. Though there are settings you could change to make it more bearable, this game may well be beyond your capacity to enjoy if you are more seriously affected. Not wanting to go through this experience yet again, Nathan played Darktide entirely with friends. Don't worry, the next game we review will be one that I can actually play.
It's just one more thing.
This buy-to-play title has a cash shop.
How do you do? And are you in funds?
I guess at this point we should expect it, and no doubt it'll be defended with reminders of all of it being purely cosmetic.
Is that you in the dresser? Nice.
And all the free content we're going to get. But in this case especially, that free content is the other half of the game you've already paid for, not a legitimate justification for additional monetization.
So, final thoughts.
So we're all going to die, Patrick.
If you have no prior interest in Warhammer, then this is perhaps not the best long-term investment to settle on when there might be better fits for you out there.
We could talk about guns.
We'd at least suggest you give Fatshark a chance to finish the game before handing them any more money, because they have a lot of promises to catch up on and we have no idea how long it'll take them. If Fatshark idea how long it's going to take them to handing them any more money, because they've
yeah, don't give sharks your money, folks.
They've taken my ability to speak, apparently.
Yeah,
We're not finishing
and your
this
money.
review because it's slightly negative.
We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll be doing lots more 2-player co-op focused content, so give us a like and a subscribe if you want to see more. See you soon!